So the $64,000 question is, were you guys giving Dan Quinn the side eye post game after he left Jayden Daniels in our opinion, a lot of people's opinion, too long in a game that was out of hand against the Seahawks?
No, I was paying attention to the game, and I just hearing the lingo on the sideline. They were saying at the beginning of their drive, like, this is the last one that everybody was going to get. So obviously, hindsight is always 20/20, but it was just a tough situation all the way around. It was still some time left on the clock. The guys wanted to go out there, and unfortunately, Jayden ended up getting hurt.
What did you think of Seattle's offense? First drive, they just march it right down on you. Happened again in the second drive. Darnold has an amazing half. What were your impressions of that offense?
Yeah, they're very effective. Just a solid unit all the way around.
I want to ask you a hard question, Von. I know you've been super supportive. I know you love the staff. You've said week after week, you've said how impressed you are with the guys and everything. What are the just give us insight, because we're not there. What are the consequences, though, like when we keep having these kinds of games like this? I'm sure they're harder on you. I'm sure they're extra analyzing things. But can you give us any insight into what it's like as a player when you're going through a situation like this? Because it seems like from afar, the same stuff keeps happening, and we're bringing the same guys out. I mean, it's kind of who you got. You play who you got. But, like, what are the consequences? Like, how are the guys buckling down on you guys? What's it been like the last month or so?
Whenever, especially on a football team, whenever I'm hit with adversity or tight situations like this, I always look at me, like, what is my contribution to this? Like, how do I fix it? And I try to, get everybody to see it from their perspective. Mm-hmm. And if we all can see it from their perspective, we'll be able to get it fixed. It's simple, solutions to complex things. And I always just try to, like, look at me. What am I doing? How am I contributing to this? What can I do better? And that's the perspective that I like to go about things.
Because Coach has been saying that, it comes from within. The answer's from within, And I understand what he's saying, but I just don't see any changes. So, but you kind of agree with that. Like, the answer's from within. It's the little things. You got to break it down to the smallest details, the smallest edge. We got to make sure that we're taking advantage of every edge, that sort of thing. That's what he keeps preaching. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to be the smallest things. Like I said, sometimes it's just simple things. Like, it's we'll be able to get some guys healthy. That'll help. Play more efficiently from an individual standpoint. That'll help. So there are calls. There is no magic defense, no magic offense. Like I said, I always start with myself. Like, how can I contribute more? What am I doing wrong? Is there anything that I could do better? And it always is. That answer is always yes.
Mm-hmm. So what are those things this week that Von Miller can do better to help this team win?
I always like to start at practice in the film room. I like to get in there and get a good lift in, get a solid workout, make sure my recovery's right. It starts with practice. Let me get some run plays, let me get some pass plays to kind of build up that confidence around the guys that I could play a little bit, that I could play more in the game, that I could do more. And yeah, that's where it starts with me. It starts at practice, contributing more and just building up the confidence and the coaches and my teammates that I could do more.
How often do you find yourself? I've never seen it. I don't know. I know nothing. But how often do you find yourself as a professional that you're human, that you lose focus, though? You find yourself, you're a human being. Maybe you play too many video games or something and your brain just wired weird. But, like, you lose focus at times in practice or in games. Is that even a thing? Does that ever happen?
Our structure, here at with the Commanders is so, efficient. Like you said, all humans struggle with consistency.
Right.
For me personally, I I practice 1 day out of the week, so it's easy for me to have that laser focus on each and every play or each and every meeting. So, like I said, that's my perspective. So,
right. Is that something new here in Washington versus when you were in Buffalo or with the Rams or with Denver?
No, I think just starting around 29, I started to get lighter workloads. Maybe even earlier than that. I remember year 5 with Coach Kubiak with the Denver Broncos having a day on, day off in training camp. So I've always had like a easier load. And I mean, this is my 15th year in the league, so it's working. It's definitely needed.
Hey, Von, can you recall being on a team in either college or the NFL that's had the injury run like the one you're seeing with the Commanders right now? I mean, it's scary.
Man, I'm sure I have. I'm sure I have had teams like this, but 15 years in, all I can remember is recent years. It's always some tough injuries, but I do not remember off my recent memory as many tough injuries that we've had to as many star players.
Right.